We are back.
Yes.
Well, good.
We're back and we're ready to go. We're talking
back,
about...
We're tanned and we're rested and ready.
Right.
And we're
and
talking
still
about
soaked.
the smart clips.
Right. And what we're going to do is...
So we're going to do the layout on this now.
Right. This is a backsplash, and it could be any length. And what you're going to do is basically you want the round of the router to start in about 1.5 inches, like that, and then you're going to come out of it about 1.5 inches. Very simple. It's not critical. If you have a long backsplash, I would not run this the entire length. I would run 2 or 3 feet, leave a little bit, and then run 2 or 3 feet. So you've got some stock at the countertop right there.
But you definitely would want any starting or stopping. If you're going to stop it, you don't want that to be going into a belly.
Exactly, exactly. And again, the screw placement is not critical, especially if you have a reasonably flat wall or straight wall. But you do want to make sure, and you can always lay the countertop, the backsplash, against the countertop and mark any areas that may be a problem area, a belly in the wall, and just put a mark there to make sure that you are routing at that point in order to put a screw in.
Because you definitely want to clip in at that point.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. So at this point, what we're going to do is I'm going to turn our dust collector on. Because we're not using the vacuum with the Festool. If you'd like to plug me in there, right on the floor there.
Yep. Got your power off?
I'm good.
There we go.
Oh, look at how nice that dust just disappears there.
Yeah, no, you can't beat that Denray booth. And actually, that is actually dead perfect. As you can see, what we've done here is the router has taken off all the wood right to the very back of the laminate. We've left no wood behind, so this is a perfect cut.
Right.
Okay, and that was very easy to set up on there.
All right, so let's set this over on the side. You can unplug it for me, please. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to put a drill bit in our drill. And I don't know what size this is, to be perfectly honest with you, but all I did was size it into the drill bushing. And what we're going to do at first is we're going to put one right just ahead of the round. So we're just going to drill a hole here. All right, now they say that spacing is about 2 of the length of these. So we can come this way, and then we're going to have another one right here. Now, here we end up with what could be a problem, because I can put this on this way and kind of hold it, or I can set it in here, and I can actually just hold that so that it would be overlapping if it was going down. Okay? What would be really nice is if they made this a T extrusion. But anyway, we're going to put a screw right here. Okay, now we've got 2 holes drilled here. That's plenty of screws if the wall is relatively flat. All
Now,
right?
what would you do if you had a belly here in the middle?
I'd put a 3rd screw in right there.
Okay.
Okay? All right, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to switch over to a driver from a putter. And we're going to, no, I'm sorry. Get rid of that, and we need the depth gauge.
Okay. Okay. Now
Okay.
the reason for that is this has to be set really in essence at a perfect height with this splash.
In order to engage into that ball socket properly.
Correct.
So there's a screwdriver, a Phillips head inside this, set back up in there.
Now, does it come, some guys like to use a number 2 square head. Is it available in that, or does it only come Phillips?
It only comes like this because, Ken, your screws come with the unit.
Okay.
So when you purchase this, you get 2 of these screws and 1 of these for every clip that you buy. And they're packed in packages of, I think, 250, or you can buy brake packs.
All right,
So what we're going to do is we're just going to put the screw in like that, and then we're going to feed it down until it slips off. Nothing to it, okay? And then we're going to put another one here. And let me just see here. You know what? I messed up on there. I apologize. This has to come in just a little bit further because there isn't room for this clip to sit here. You see the mistake I made? Okay. So let me switch back real quick here. And I'm just going to drill another hole.
So really it's important to use that gauge every time.
Well, yes, you're correct.
Now what about the other one?
The other one, there's plenty of room to set the clip in there.
Okay.
Okay? All right, so we're going to take this.
Your hole looks about the same position though.
What do you mean? As what? No, it's only the width. It's
Oh, I
see the
understand.
distance here.
I
was into the
understand.
radius right here.
I see, okay.
So we have to be away from the radius. So at this point, you have a backsplash that's ready to go onto the countertop once the clips have been installed onto the countertop.
Okay.
Very simple, okay? So now, using your imagination, this is our countertop, and I'm not sure what the manufacturer says to do, but what I've come up with is just drawing a line at each screw. So you've got a screw head here, and you draw your line. You lay your top here, and then you're going to just transfer that line to the head of the screw there, and to the head of the screw there. And I know you can't see that very well, but what I've done is I've transferred the line from the center of the screw head down to the countertop.
Now how critical is that? Because if you're off, let's say by 16...
Well, you can only be off just a little bit. There's a leader here, but you can't really be off that much.
All
So
right.
it's pretty critical, okay? So what we're going to do is, let's just take this piece here, and I'm going to draw a line here. And I'm going to take this piece here, and I'm going to draw a line here. All right? Now, let's take and clamp this down. Hold on just a second.
We use our solo clamps for this.
Right, and this is going to be our wall in place. Okay. All right, and your countertop is installed. And at this point, what you're going to do is you're going to take this, just like that. The socket's going to fit underneath there, and you're going to put this tight up against the wall. Okay. Now we're going to take a regular screwdriver, and let's see. I'm going to go ahead and just put a starter hole in there.
Because if you tried to screw right through that, couldn't you crack the
Well,
split the
yeah,
laminate?
plus in the laminate, this can wander back and forth, and it is fairly critical that that be in the center. So let's go ahead and just drill through this, just
Now-
like that, to get a hole started.
Now, do you have to use a special kind of drill for that? Because I notice your drill is actually into the wall in this case. Or would you have to drill these at an angle?
Good question. Let's think about that a minute. We can get that in on an angle without a problem and clear the wall. Or this, with the Festool drill, you could use their eccentric chuck and
Okay.
drill close to the wall. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so we're going to do that one like that. And then we're going to put this one right here. And I'm just going to drill on an angle here. I'm kind of imagining that my drill's not going to hit the wall there. And we're going to put one right here. Okay. All right, so you see what you got there? Now, on a long countertop, obviously, these would be the whole length of the top, about every foot or so. And again, if you have a belly in the wall, you can
wanna
put one
make-
in between.
You always want to make sure that you put one of these clips right in the depth of the belly.
Absolutely. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and put these 4 screws in. Now there is a little bit of forward and backward movement in the, because those are slotted.
But now, once you set the screw, though, it's not going to move.
Right, so that's it. Now, at this point, I don't suggest a dry fit, because once these lock in, they're hard to get off.
All right.
Okay.
Now, what do you do if you should have to remove the splash later on? Is there a trick for getting it out?
Not really. I mean, you can pop it off. What I would recommend is, obviously, you want to get down behind the splash at the bottom as far as you can, and then pop it.
Okay.
Once you get one, you can start to pop more and more off. Okay?
All right.
Now, to caulk this, what's recommended is to put a caulk bead right along the countertop, right in front of these clips.
Okay, and for that you would use
A
what kind?
silicone or a color match caulk if you wanted to.
Okay, but typically a silicone is what's recommended as opposed to a latex?
Either one, whatever you prefer using.
Okay.
And then what's going to happen is that if you have a bead of caulk down here and you set this down, as you push this back, it's going to scrape and it's going to roll the silicone up on the back side of the backsplash, which will make a water seal. So at this point, we can double check this and see that our screws are lined up well enough to do what we want to do. And then we're going to just take the smart clip, if you want to just grab that side. Come on. Just pop it in. You got to whack it. There you go.
So actually, then it might be
This one
good
needs to be whacked in again.
is to take a.
Okay. All right. So now that is engaged on there. Actually, it's not. Because this isn't a solid wall and this isn't screwed down, we're nearly... Here, let me just get a hammer here real quick.
I see. What happens is mine's locked, but what happened was when we bounced on your side, there we go.
Right.
Okay, so now we're locked in, and this would take, and if we had the silicone there, now you see how extremely tight that fit is, and I can't get my fingernail into there at all.
Right.
So if there were silicone there, you could do, we talked about using a mixture of ammonia and water and spraying it on there and then just scraping the excess right up.
Right.
So that would seem to be a perfect
But see,
fit.
so what you actually have here is these have just locked into the ball sockets there, and they're locked into place. And what this also eliminates, Ken, is the probability of the countertop sagging.
Okay, because it's locked up. So the bond, you're still gluing this to the wall at the same time, or are you letting this float?
You don't even have to glue it to the wall if you don't want to.
Okay.
You can, but you don't have to, because
All right.
it'll stay in those sockets right there.
All right, so if you don't glue this to the wall, what that then allows you to do is that when you go to pop it off, it gives you the ability to get behind it a lot easier and begin to knock it loose.
Now, one thing that just in looking at what's happening here, I can see a great place for this where if you have a countertop and you have a desk area and there's nothing underneath it, typically that would start to sag after a while. Now, you should have a gusset on the wall, a cleat on the wall, but a lot of guys don't. They just span it, and then they'll have to go back later. So if this were going to span, say, a 30-inch area, the rigidity of this locked onto the countertop would act as a reverse cleat.
Now, also, probably what you should make sure, you probably want to definitely get one of these over a dishwasher opening.
Good point. That's right.
And also, a lot of kitchens I know have the lower desk areas or things like that where you tend to get sagging there.
Right.
Vanities, where the makeup chair goes. Any spot like that. Any spot where you're concerned about a sag, you definitely want to make sure that, just like you put a clip where there's a belly in the wall, you want to put a clip where there's a potential for sagging.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, how is this going to hold? I know one of the real weak spots is behind the kitchen sink where water gets in.
Well, you can see it's locked down tight. If you've got a good bead of silicone in front of there should be no reason why you'd ever have a problem with it.
So then the key then would be to make sure you get the silicone under the rim of the sink so that you seal that area, because the screw is down into the particle board. The screw is what, a 1/2 inch, 5/8?
Yeah.
A 1/2 inch or 5/8. So if you lose or compromise the quality of the particle board, which is what most laminate tops are set on now,
Absolutely. Yep.
that screw is just going to pop right out?
Oh, yeah. It
Okay.
would.
So that's
But you're relying on your silicone not to let any water get underneath there and degrade that area where the screw is.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
So very quickly, what you're going to get when you purchase the kit, you get the space bar.
now,
gonna
what's
get-
this notch for on the space bar? I know
Well,
we talked a little bit about
what
that.
happens is you would have set this, you put the notch here, and then you drill your first hole this far in. And then when you routed back here, if I'd have done that, I wouldn't have had the problem I had having to reroute it.
Okay.
Okay, so you've got your notch there, you've got your hardened bushing in there for the drill, all right? Then you've got your depth gauge, which these will wear out, obviously, so you want to get a couple of those. And then, of course, your router bit, which is in the router.
Correct.
And again, that is a proprietary bit. When you purchase your clips, for every clip you purchase, you're going to get 2 of these screws. You usually get more because they just kind of dump them in there, you know.
It's like all. Problem is,
Yeah.
I often get through with a lot of my projects, and I say, "Why are there so many screws left over? I've done something wrong."
especially happens when you work on the car, you know, put
Yep.
something on it,
Yeah.
and it's like, what are these parts
Gosh.
over? And then you get one of those screws. They're zinc coated, so if they do get wet, they're not going to rust.
Okay.
I tell you, we sell a ton of these things, and guys that get turned on to them use them over and over again because they totally eliminate callbacks. Absolutely eliminate callbacks.
Well, one of the reasons why I brought up the old chrome strip that a lot of people remember when we were younger, that it was on all laminate
Right.
tops. The little coved chrome strip. Trying to say that fast. But that little coved chrome strip
Right.
really was an eyesore. It was unattractive. It would take and it would hold a lot of dirt and crud and
Oh
junk
yeah,
like
everything
that.
would just would get
Yeah.
all gooey in there,
And then
especially
once
around
again-
the stove. It'd get greasy.
That was only held on by little tiny brad nails.
Right.
And so if you remember that strip from when you were younger, they always looked horrible. They never held well. They were just a problem. This is really the next generation totally beyond that.
Right.
Because this overcomes, once again, the greatest fundamental flaw of a poor, loose, sloppy fit.
Right.
This immediately overcomes that. Deterioration of the fastener, because this is a screw as opposed to a small brad nail.
Right.
This is not going to slide out. This is going to pull material with it. And as far as ease and speed of putting on, you know, really the only thing you got to pay attention to is really making sure you line this up when you're laying your blocks out, because if you know, obviously your in-splash is fitted.
Now, also, I would like to mention that you can do a full height splash with these, and you can also, which is one thing a lot of people don't think about, if you have an end splash, you can do the end splash and you can do up the wall with smart clips as well, so it locks the whole thing together.
Okay.
Now, you would want to scribe that first.
How would you do that though? Because you've got to
You push the whole thing in. You go straight in.
Okay.
And it'll lock into both of them. But again, you won't be able to get it off, so you have to make sure that it's going to fit.
So you have to in that case, you would have to completely pre-scribe, pre-fit everything, because you're going to get one chance at it.
That's right, exactly. But it'll lock it in place, and it'll stay there. This gap, you'll never have a gap in the back.
Now you
that
have to
changes.
use 3/4 inch backer board though.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this is all designed for 3/4.
Okay, because a lot of guys just use contact adhesive and stick it right to the wall.
Well, it's a different story altogether. I mean, this is where you're doing a full thickness splash.
Okay.
All right? And
All
that's
right.
it. I think we're about ready to go to break. We have just a couple of minutes. Is there anything else that you'd like to say?
Well, I'm the first to admit I'm not a laminate guy. I don't come at the industry from that perspective. Always have done solid surface, but I can definitely say one of the things I've always bragged about is how well solid surface fits, as far as being able to glue up and stay together compared to laminate. But that's every bit as good a joint as I've ever seen on a solid
yeah.
surface top. So
Definitely.
we have in our last segment probably the grand dame of the show. We're going to show different sink fastening techniques.
Right. Now, a few of them we've already gone over, but the one of them is brand new, and it's for granite and solid surface. We've already done the other clips. Whether you remember or not, I'm not sure.
Well, no,
we've already kind of done these. But yeah, we're gonna show a brand new clip, and we're going to test it out and see how well it works. So we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Minute and a half.
Minute and a half. This is called Strike Hold, and this was it cleans, lubricates, and protects, as it says. But it's an amazing product. I have never seen anything like this. I don't even think it's up on our website, but it will be tomorrow. It does everything. It's just amazing. It does everything. It cleans, it lubricates. We had the threads on our planer were rusted, and we had to open it up to 6 inches, which you normally wouldn't do. And we sprayed it down with this stuff, and in 10 minutes it had eaten through all the rust, and it worked just perfectly.
I know, just by way of, I do quite a bit of shooting, and I read that you could use this for guns.
Right.
And I sprayed it down the bore of one of my pistols, and I was amazed. It immediately cleaned the bore out.
Yeah. Unlike any other product, it actually goes through the water. Other products like PB Blaster and things like that, if you fill them in a cup of water, they lay on top of the surface and they do nothing. If you actually put this in, this goes through the water and will eat a styrofoam cup like that.
How long does this last, though? I'm curious.
It lasts for 5 months on a non-moving part. So it'll waterproof for 5 months, like an electrical connection or things like that. But if it's something that's moving all the time, you want to just keep spraying it on a regular basis to keep it protected. Now, what we're going to do is very simply we're going to spray.
Oh, you're a chicken is what you... We did this earlier.
Well, you know, I mean, well, you know, all you do is you spray the surface good, okay, like that, and then you spray anything that's going to be...
Let me get Karen's furniture out of the way. That won't take the finish off of her chair, will it?
Spray the light bulb too, all right? Now you screw the light bulb together, and I'm just going to show you a simple test of this. You're going to see a really neat demonstration of this when the manufacturer comes in. So we have this, all right? Now this is regular water here, just like nothing special about it. And we're actually going to take that and drop it in the water.
Are we going to go offset?
Okay, look at that. Look at that. Can you believe that?
Can you stick your finger in that water?
No.
Go ahead.
But isn't that amazing? All right, so, and then you could just take it apart. Now look at this. Watch this. A little bit of water on there. Here we go. Ready? Ready?
Thought we were going to have an Alcatraz moment.
Look at that. I mean, can you believe that? I mean, that is absolutely amazing. So imagine like, you know, like let's say your car, you know, if you drive an old clunker or something, and every time it rains, it runs bad. Just spray down the spark plug wires, distributor cap, all of that stuff with this, and it'll protect it for 5 months.
Well, now, big
it's
thing,
amazing
and
stuff.
you and I had talked about this. For all of you guys that are field carpenters,
Right.
you know, framers, stitches guys, all that, if you take and you think of your tools that rust, the chucks on your drill.
Yep. Just spray down everything in your toolbox with this stuff.
Router bit shafts, saw blades.
Yep.
Once again, all your tools, all the contact points, everything that deteriorates from, especially humidity down here in Florida,
Absolutely.
all along. You know, anybody involved in the marine industry, carpenters, farmers.
If the lights go out, folks, you know what happens.
Leave well enough alone.
You know, I just wonder. You know, when we
don't try this at home, by the way.
Right.
Not unless you have this.
When we when we do this on our show, when we actually get into doing this, I think maybe we'll see if we can put some goldfish in that bowl, and then show that there's no electrical discharge at all. Wouldn't that be cool?
I think it'd be cool if you put your foot in a bucket of water.
Amazing, just amazing.